Right. So what we're going to be talking about is what I refer to the top 10, maybe 11 minor features, emphasis on the word minor features, but useful, much needed features that they should have had in Photoshop some 5, 10 years ago, or even longer. You'll see some examples of that. So these are not, I mean, they're easy. You can actually will see. We might be out here in no time flat. So these are the top 5, 10 rather. So minor features, and then we're going to look at about 5 new features. Okay, and those are the ones that most of you guys may be interested in. Uh, so we're going to zip through these rather fast, and I'm going to talk about what's the difference was in the previous version. I don't have the previous version of Photoshop because it overwrote my older version, so I only have the new, latest and greatest version of Photoshop on my computer. But I think I remember how it behaved, so I'm going to let you know what's the difference between the new version versus the old version, and why you appreciate, you should appreciate the new version. So we're going to look at the new home screen, okay, the go back button, which is really nice, the default text, and that may be a welcome for particular beginners, the default text when you use the text tool, the updated typing features for the text tool. We'll see how it behaves different from previous versions of Photoshop. The auto commit for transformation, okay, and we'll look at that. The lock screen, that's not a big deal for me, maybe for beginners, whatever, where you can lock the workspace. We'll look at that. The modern day undo, okay, feature. Then we'll look at how to do some simple math within the numeric text fields. Show you how to do that. There's an updated transformation. The way you do transformation now is different from previous versions of Photoshop. There's a new color wheel, a new color model, if you will, new color wheel, if you will. And then there's no pun intended there, right? And then there's a ability to create and preview multiple artboard, and that's another one I just recently added last night. I think I remember how to do it, so we'll try to see if we can pull off that one as well. So I said 10 up here, but it's actually 11. Okay, so let's talk about the new home screen. Again, what you can do now is literally access the home screen from at any time. In the past, you had to kind of get out and get back in, which was a kind of a pain. Now you can access it fairly easily. Let's show you how to do that. So let's say you're in Photoshop like we have here, and you want to go to the home screen, when you first open it up, to access some additional files that you want to open. Well, you click there, bam, you're right there on the home screen. Okay, and then you can select another file you want to open. Now you have 2 files open. So you go back to the home screen, select that file, bam, life is good. Okay, so that's, again, this is not anything big. It's, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, right, to click on the home button. Okay, but this is a big convenience for not only beginners but experts alike, right?
Notice it's there.
Well, you do have to notice it's there. But once you notice it's there, you're gonna know it's there. Okay, almost a Chopinism now. So click on that home button and just click on the back button, and you can toggle back and forth. I like that feature. Okay, so that's the home feature, new, but again, new and improved. And then the go back button. So they kind of work hand in hand. So you can go from the home to the back button with a single click. Fairly easy. So another new feature is the use of the default text when you use the text tool. Okay, let's show you what I'm talking about. If you use the text tool, and that's this tool right here, I wish I could zoom in on this. And then let me bump up the font size to something really big. So if I click now, notice it automatically added some lower Epson text, which is really nice. And I'm going to use the move tool, and you can see I can move things around. So that's new, the ability to get the default text when you click. In the past, you had to click and start typing your text. For beginners, that was problematic, because sometimes if you had your font really small, let me just undo this. Let me go over here and just drag, just select what I want to affect, hit the delete key. If your font was really small, let's say, for example, I'm on the text tool, right? and I had a font of 6, and then you click. You may not, and if the text is white and the background is white, you may not realize that you have a text object that you've just created. You can see it in the layer panel, that you indeed have a text layer created in the layer panel. It's just easy to be able to have that feature where you can have text, and when you click on it, it automatically put a placeholder. Obviously, you want to type over that, but it's already highlighted, so as soon as you type, it's going to replace what you have. So I'm going to just type in white. Okay, that's where I want to go. And I'm going to delete this one. And then, so that's a feature that you can, that's currently available on a newer version of Photoshop, is the default dummy text, is what we call it, placeholder text. Now, with that in mind, by the way, I'm also, now in the past, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's the default text. So the updated text feature is what excites me the most. Let me talk about what that is. In the past, in order to select this text, you had, what did you have to do to select the text?
You had to click onto it, try to get the right thing. If you kind of missed a little, it wouldn't select it. With a pain in the butt.
Yeah, what you had to do to select this text, you either had to click on the thumbnail, and then you still can do that, or you click on the text tool, and then you was able to go in and select the text. Most programs, typically, if you want to select something, because only what's selected gets affected. Y'all know that, right? Most programs, when you want something, you just select it. You click on it, you either click or double click to select it. Now, that's what it's doing. You can click on that text field, bam, start typing or do whatever. You want to increase the font, you can come up here and do something like that, and you get bigger fonts. Anytime you want to move something, use the move tool and move that text or whatever around. I'll change this, and I maybe want to change this font to something a little bit different. Yeah.
You know already the shortcut for the move tool is V, but if you're inside a text box, is there a modifier that will not type a V but will select the move tool?
Okay. Do you know any?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, not that I know of.
That'd be a good minor feature for 2020 Photoshop. Yeah, that'd be good. But control these paste, so we'll figure something out.
So anyway, you can double click on it now and do whatever you need to do. You can, if you want to change the font size, you can change the boldness. And on a particular, like this font.
Make it Hawaiian looking.
Yeah, I don't know what font. Okay, I just wanted something bold because I want to bump it up. And yeah, I know you can scrub. You can get near this double T and just move left and right to increase or decrease the size of the font. That's been around forever and a day, which is a nice feature though. And then I might want to. Yeah, right here. So, and that's available in most places. So anyway, so the ability to be able to just to click the text and select it and start typing and editing is good. Now, what I forgot to mention is that you're not limited to just clicking, but you can click and drag out a text box, like you can in Flash and Illustrator, or maybe InDesign or what have you. So, for example, if I select this text and I'm gonna reduce this because obviously I don't want the font to be that big. Reduce the font. Oh. The reason for that is because, yeah, I still have the layer selected, and what's selected gets affected. Okay, so if I click and drag, I can drag out a text box that gets populated, and I forgot to change my font size when I did that, with dummy text as well. So this is another good way of adding dummy text to your copy or your composition. Let me see that better. So a good way of adding dummy text, placeholder text to you. Is just drag out a text box, and it's going to populate that. And again, you want to type and paste, type whatever you want, or paste your information in there. So that's a good little feature. Auto commit. Again, this is all kind of relating to text, to the text field. Well, actually, this deals with other things as well. In the past, when you transform an object, when I say an object, it could be text or an image, you had to commit it in order to do anything else, right? If you try to do anything else, it balks at you, and I can't do it right now because I have a newer version, but it would tell you, do you want to apply the transformation? You either say yes or no or discard, right? You don't have to do that anymore. Now, all you have to do by the way, let me just show you what I'm talking about. Let's say I got this object selected. If I do Control T, and y'all know that's transformation, right? So I do Control T to create a transformation. And if I scale it, if I scale that object up or down or whatever, or rotate or whatever, in the past I would have to do one of several things to commit it. First thing you would have to do, you could double click on it to commit it. That's one way of committing it. What's another way? You can hit return key on a Mac or the enter key on a PC, or you can click the little check box up at the top. You no longer have to do that. All you got to do is click outside of this bounding box to make a commitment. So if all I got to do is click, and it's been committed. Okay.
So you're saying if the transform fits, you can't commit?
Yeah. Right.
You must commit.
You must commit.
Transform fits, you must commit.
You must commit. And you can always do undo, right? But so if you wanted to Control T again, and I'm gonna reduce the size of this, but this time I'm gonna rotate it like so. And if I want to commit that, I just click outside and it's committed. Okay, so that's a good little feature because most of the time, if you're transforming something, you want to commit it. You don't want it to be worrying about having to go through another dialog box to commit it, or hitting the enter key or the return key, or click the little button up at the top, or double click on the object. Life is good. Okay, so again, another feature is nothing earth-shattering here, but to me, man, it's just like, man, I wish they had done this a long time ago. So I'm gonna just delete that because maybe actually, yeah, I'm gonna do Control. I can do Control Z now multiple times, and then do Control T, and maybe you want to have copy. Maybe I want to do something with this later on. So I'm gonna just put that right here right now. Okay, so you can do that. What else? So auto commit is a feature that you can do, and that works with the text and images as well. So anything you do can work with. Now lock the workspace. Again, this is not a big deal for me anyway. But if you wanted to, and I don't understand the reason why you would want to do this that often, but in the past you could literally pull out these. That's probably because I have it locked right now. Yeah. Well, it's not working because I got it locked up. You could pull out these panels like this, right, and move them around and whatever. Well, if you didn't want to allow the user to do that, maybe in a classroom setting, whatever, and you want to prevent that from happening, you can lock the. Let me just put that back in here. Put those back in, and then you can always move these around like you can with a browser tab, right? If you want to lock that, then you would go up to the window, Workspace, and then lock Workspace. And now if you try to do that, it's not going to allow you to lock the workspace. Now you got to be careful. You got to do this before you move things off the panel, off the side rather. So for example, if I were to go here and do this again, let's say move it out, and I told it to lock it now, what's going to happen? Is it going to lock this in place right here?
Yeah.
No.
No.
You just won't be able to put it in there though.
It'd be a great prank to
Okay,
watch.
maybe you can't put it in there. So it's not going to lock it if it's off the dock. So beware of that. Dock and lock. Y'all getting those little isms going on, huh? Lock it if you want to dock it. No, dock it if you want to lock it. Okay, there we go. Got to get a little Chopinism going on there. So make sure you dock it before you lock it.
So it's undocked, it won't lock.
There you go. Y'all on a roll today. So anyway, that's a feature. Again, that might be good for beginners, but for me, I would probably never worry about doing that. Okay, now something again, you might want to, like you might be so used to doing this. What used to irritate the heck out of me, that's a technical term, was when you try to do a multiple level of undo, it would toggle undo, redo, right? Now, let me give you my testimony. I was teaching at ITT Technical Institute, right? I'm the teacher. I'm teaching Photoshop. And so I was telling my students, there's only one level of undo in Photoshop. I didn't realize they had a shortcut key to do multiple levels of undo. So every time you do Control Z, it would add it and subtract it, add it, and, So I didn't know that. And so one of my students said, Mr. Chopin, there's a multiple level undo. You got to hold on that Alt key, Control Alt Z, to do multiple levels of undo. So I felt kind of embarrassed, but I remember that keyboard shortcut. But the problem is, Photoshop is the only program that I know of. Now, maybe you guys have had, and I believe me, I've done many programs in my life. I'm not no young whippersnapper. Is the only program that does the multiple undo with Control Alt Z. Every other program on the universe or in the universe is Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. So again, that might not be a big deal for you, but it's big for me, particularly if I'm teaching a beginner person. For me already, like you, I'm in the habit of doing that. But for a beginner, most people in the universe know that Control Z in most programs will do a multiple levels of undo. So now that's available. That's why I say the modern day undo. That should have been around 10 years ago or 20 years ago. But anyway, they finally got it correct. So
the redo or multiple redo also then.
Well, let me demonstrate this, if you will. So I'm gonna use the brush tool and show you this. Let me create a new layer. And I'm gonna increase the size. Okay, so here we go. So I'm gonna do click, click, click. Can you guys see those dots? It's kind of faint there. Let me make them a little bit. Yeah. Let me bump it up a little bit more. Here we go. You know, I could make it solid. Oh, I got it white.
Did you select this so you can affect this?
Yeah.
You're on the eraser tool.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why it's not working.
The brushes now in Photoshop select certain tools.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. So anyway, we got these 4 objects on there, right? Now, if I do Control Z, notice I can do multiple levels of undo. Now, if I do Control Shift Z, I can go back. Okay, so you can do it that way. But I like the fact that I can be able to do Control Z and do the multiple levels. Now, how many levels? I guess there's a preference, I believe, inside of the in the preference that you can dictate, 50, 100, or whatever.
Photoshop will eat more RAM if you have higher levels of undos.
Yeah, and typically, when I do undos, it's typically 3 or 4 undos. It's not no 50 undos for me. But what I typically do.
Would you, do they still have the history part? So if you only set it to do a few controls.
I think, yeah, you still have the history panel, Windows.
Like to go
So you still have the history panel, and you can kind of scrub through that and go to a previous state.
Is that
Yeah.
how you pick up the RAM? The history?
So yeah, I can see something around hard drive space depending on where you have set up. You still have it's like non-consecutive history. Can you go over to the hamburger menu and check the options for history if you don't mind?
Where's it at?
The
The
panel.
three-line history. Yeah.
Hold on, let me get out of this.
You're in the right area. Yeah.
Oh, is it in here? Is it in there?
Yeah. So if you go up into history,
Okay, let me do it again.
and then it's right here. The guy.
Oh, okay, that's the little beater thing, huh?
Yeah, the hamburger menu. And then go to history options. Yeah, nonlinear history. Cool. It's still there.
Yeah, so it's still there.
I love nonlinear history.
Where is it? What is it?
It's right here. Allow nonlinear history. I don't use the history panel that often, but I guess that's a useful tool to do that.
What does that do?
So you ever been in like Photoshop when you're like
Excuse
making a
me.
lot of changes and then you go back like 10 steps to look at something and then you accidentally click your mouse and then it erases all the history you had since then? Then what it does is just adds on to the history instead of erasing it. So
Oh.
basically allows extra timelines like in time travel. But Photoshop.
So that's a feature that should have been around for some time, the multiple level. Then now you can do some simple arithmetic, if you will, and do Einstein in here, inside of a text field. So let's see how that works. Let's say you had this, let me select something here. And again, I don't know the reason why you would want to do this, but let's say I got this right here, and I could do 100 divided by 2. And it'll go to 50%. So for you mathematicians out there, if you want to do that, I don't know why would you want to do that too often, but you can. So any input numeric input field, you can do some simple math.
So is that under the percentage?
It converted to percentage. Yeah. So I did 100 divided by 2, and it did, it did 50%. So anyway, you can do that. Let me do Control Z. And so I'll just bump it back up. Actually, I guess it does it based on the units.
You could have said.
Or you could do. Let me do it right here. Let me do the opacity. So let me make sure I'm on the right thing. I'm on the text, right? That text field. And if I want to change the opacity, I don't know why you would want to do it because I just typed in 50. I mean, I know a little bit of arithmetic, but I could do 100 divided by 2, right? And that's. Did I type that right? I must have typed that. And you can see the transparency changed to 50%.
You might want to do proportional. I mean, you got several text boxes.
Yeah.
This is 100. The next one's 70%.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. What would I want to do? That would be a good classical example of why would you want to do this? Because I always want to know the why behind things. Why would I want to do it? And that I think that would be a good. Another reason I've heard is if you had you do the thirds, the rule of threes or thirds. You could say 33%. It'll give you 33%. Again. Not something that I would probably do a whole lot of because I do a crop tool and I just scale it to what I want. But there may be some good techniques like that you would want to be able to do that with. So again, nothing major here, but there may be some needs every now and then. An old adage, rather have and not need, and need not have, can come into play in these cases. Not something I would probably be doing a whole lot.
Rather have, not need?
Rather have and not need than need and not have. Okay, so another interesting update is the transformation tool and how it works. In the old days, 3 years ago, that's a long time in that time, when you wanted to transform something proportionally, right? How you say that scale proportionally? right? What key do you hold down? You hold on the shift key, right? Typically you hold on, and that's true of most programs. Now, I know there's a trend, and as my State Farm agent would say, the trend is your friend. It's not chauvinism, but close to one. Is to get away from that. Okay, to having to hold on the shift key to constrain things proportionally. So in the new version of Photoshop, an object, once you select an object, you can just and transform it. You can scale it proportionally by default. Emphasis there is by default. So let's illustrate that. So let's say, for example, I'm going to just create an object here. I'm going to just use my rectangular tool. Actually, I don't want to use a rectangular tool because I'm going to explain the reason why I don't. But I'm going to use my text tool right here. Just select this object right here. And I'm going to do Control T. And let's get on that. Why is that not selecting? Okay, there we go. So we got this object. If I were to try to scale it, notice it's scaling proportionally without me holding down the shift key. You guys see that? In the past, you would have to hold on the shift key in order to scale things proportionally. Now you can do it automatically just by pulling on the handle, or if you want to rotate it, whatever the case. Any type of transformation, right? Rotating, scaling, skewing it, warping the object, whatever the case is.
If you took one side, will it still proportionally scale?
Yeah, I mean, you
Like,
grab,
like
yeah,
the middle of the
right here.
side.
That's
Yeah.
a good question.
Okay.
So,
So
yes,
how
it
do you
does.
make it act the way it used to?
Okay, good question. You hold on the shift key, and now you can scale it however you want. Okay, so it's a reverse. Okay, so, and now there was now let me give you my Chopinism here. The Chopinism on that is, usually let's imagine this is a man. You can make a fat man skinny or a skinny man fat. Okay, so you hold on the shift key, and then then it works the way you may be used to in the past, where you scaling it non-proportionally. Now, that works for text objects and images, or what we call bitmap, or for you geeks out there, raster objects. Is that what's called? Raster objects for you geeks. Now, bitmap, y'all know, most of y'all know what a bitmap is. Okay, so that works with bitmap images and text objects, like what we have. If you have a vector object, an object that's created using mathematical formulas to define a shape, then this doesn't hold true. So let me illustrate that one. And I was about to do that a minute ago. So if I'm using one of these shape tools, if you will, for example, the rectangular shape tool, and I'm going to just draw a shape on the screen right here. Move this out of the way so you can see it. And then do Control T to select it. You get those selection handles, right? Transformation handles, if you will. Now, if I were to grab one of the ends, look, it works just the opposite from proportional. So now it's not scaling proportionally. Now, if I did want to scale it proportionally, I would indeed have to use the shift key. So if I hold on the shift key, now I can scale proportionally. Okay, so everything works without the shift key except the vector-based objects or shapes. Okay, then you do indeed have to hold on the shift key to maintain the proportion. So that's take a little bit of getting used to.
Go back to your Hawaii text object and select it. You know what, if you're gonna rotate that, you know what effect the shift key has on that? Try.
Okay, well I need to do Control T first, right?
Yeah.
And then you say
Yeah, shift rotate.
Okay, shift rotate.
Nothing.
No, nothing.
Now, one thing they did do differently. What is missing now that we have the transformation tool? This is new to Photoshop CC. It's not on my list. But what is missing when you do transformation now that used to be there before?
You mean like grow from the center? Like, does it grow from the center?
No, no.
Oh, the crosshair in the center.
That's right. The transformation handle is off by default now.
Oh,
Okay. So typically when you rotate it via center, right? Well, you don't see it now because it's off by default. Now let me click this object right here. You see right here? Now you see the little crosshair right there? That's where it's going to pivot or rotate via that axis, right? Now if I move that, let's say I move it down over here, where it's going to rotate from?
from there.
From there. Okay? They've changed that, by the way. That's a new feature in CC. You don't see that particular. I don't know. That's probably. I would prefer to see it, particularly for beginners, because they may not know how to turn that thing on. I mean, it's fairly easy to turn on with just a little checkbox up there. But for a beginner, I would rather see that. Okay, and be able to know that it's there and I can move it or whatever, just as a cognitive load, if you will, or reducing the cognitive load for
It's not like there's
beginners.
not 1,000 things on there that you have to.
Right.
pay attention to.
Yeah. So anyway, they changed that where you don't see that, and in most things you can do Control H to hide those extras. These are what they call extras. Even though I have it hidden, those selection handles are still available there. They just hidden. So I did Control H to hide those extras, those handles and transformation.
Well, couldn't
The Control H.
change the defaults for some of those in the preferences?
I hadn't gotten to that. I assume you can. Because some people are set in their ways, right? And, we resist. And if you want to, you could probably change. I hadn't had the opportunity to look into the preferences to see if you could change it.
Okay, so if you Control H to hide it, does it Control H toggle it back?
It does, and that's what I just did. If I do Control H, hide it, you can do a show and hide. So it's a toggle function.
Okay.
I don't know why you want to hide it, but typically,
Sometimes hide my marquees if I have like.
if you got a lot of stuff and it's busy,
selected and
yeah.
do color correction. There's a little dancing ants to throw off
Yeah,
your,
and that would be a good user's case for why you would want to hide those extras, what we call them.
I want to go back to shift rotate though. I didn't know it didn't work on text boxes, but make a selection anywhere in your photo.
Okay.
And then Control T that selection.
Now, what that's going to do is, okay, so you want me to make a selection. I'm going to duplicate this layer because I don't want to mess that up. And let me just turn these off just to make it easier for us to see. And so you want me to make a selection, right?
Yeah. Make
Okay.
a selection and Control T it.
Do that. Now, that's going to transform the selection because what's selected is affected by what you do next, right? If I do Control T,
Yeah. Now shift rotate.
now I'm going to hold down the Shift key, rotate it. It's going to rotate the pixels under that selection.
Right, but is it rotating by 15
It's
degrees?
rotating by 15 degree increments.
Yeah, okay, so it still does that. Yeah.
And they've always did that in the past, right?
Yeah.
Only when you hold down shift.
Yeah.
Now, if I don't use the Shift key,
Minimal increment. That's what,
15 degree increments.
if you don't hit the shift?
Then it just does it by 1 or whatever.
and that's true of most programs because you constrain things by degrees, by angles, horizontal, vertically, right? Yeah, and most programs will constrain stuff proportionally or by degrees, 15, and you can adjust that too in the preference from 15 to 30 if you need to.
Or would you change it to 30 instead of 15?
Just because you want to do 30 degrees at a time instead of 15.
Is that like something you type or something?
Yeah. And again, I hadn't done this, but if you do edit preferences, there's a lot of preference settings, and I got it. Yeah. And so you got a whole host of stuff you can change, and I'm not sure which one of these it would be under, but probably under general. That's all of them. Anyway, you go through this list and find out what you can change.
The rotate angle or rotate.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one of these it is. But anyway, you could kind of just go through here and find you know, what you can do for, or what you can change back to a previous setting. Okay, so let's do Control D to deselect, right? Y'all know that. Another new feature, again, not a big deal, maybe for some of us, is the new color wheel, right? I'll show you that. I'm going to turn my text back on, Hawaii, and in fact, I'm going to bump that back up to 100. Okay, let's say I wanted to get a color that is a complementary color to the sunset, right there. Well, if I go up to Windows and do color, normally you would have one of these other ones like this, right? Well, there's a new one called the color wheel. You've probably seen this because this feature is similar to this called Cooler or something like that, I believe, right? Anyway, I'm not a big person in the matching colors and stuff. I just do whatever I need to. Anyway, you can select complementary colors from using this color wheel and all that fun stuff. So anyway, let's say for example, I'm gonna sample. I'm gonna use my eyedropper to sample, let's say this color right here. You guys see where I'm hovering? And notice it highlighted up on the color wheel. Where if I go just to the opposite end of the spectrum, if you will, I can get a complementary color to that particular color. That's one way of doing it. There's probably a lot of different ways of doing it.
What?
I was up here
Mm-hmm.
and I just basically went to the other side.
Okay.
Okay, to get a complementary color, I think what they call it.
I didn't realize.
And so now,
Complementary to yellow.
and so I just changed it to that particular color. Again, if you're into color matching and all of that fun stuff for you illustrators and artists and painters out there, this might be useful. Yeah, I don't do a whole lot when it comes to color myself. I'm looking for cropping and cutting and masking and stuff like that. But you got a new tool available again that you can take advantage of. So that's another one. Again, these are minor stuff that you can use in Photoshop. Let me try to do this other one. I hadn't done it, so I might be fumbling all over it, but I'm gonna try anyway. And that is the Artboard. So let's see here. So what I want to be able to do is I'm going to reduce the size of this so you can kind of see what I'm doing. There's a new tool. I guess this is new. It's new to Photoshop. But you can click on here, and let me close this out so you guys can see it in the layer, because it gets added to the layer panel right here. So I'm going to draw another artboard. In fact, I'm just click and drag, and notice I drew another artboard. And then you can click again and add another one, or you can draw another artboard. So you can draw as many of these as you like, right? And then you can just bring in some images and drag and drop them into the artboard. So for example,
Where does the artboard come from? Is it that first tool that you selected?
yeah, if you click right here and select this artboard,
Okay.
it's going to pull that tool out, and then you can typically draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to just do one, maybe. Let's just do two. Let's say do two. Then notice I've added these two artboard inside of your layer panel. And then you could take images and drag and drop them into the artboard and do whatever you want. So that's how you create artboard. Let me see if I hold on the Alt key. Let me see if I can do this. and I'm dragging it inside of that artboard. See it right there? And then this is another one. That one is empty. So I'm taking this image and I'm just dragging it inside this little artboard right here.
So that looks like two different files open from it, correct?
Say that again?
When we open few files at the same time, a few the same.
Instead of having multiple files.
Yeah, yeah,
Few files.
exactly. And again, it's a preference. You know, some people rather have separate files for each thing they do. Some people like to have everything all in one file. So again,
I want to explain that example you did earlier before I started about this is, the one.
okay, yeah, good classical example why you would want to use Artboard. If you got a business, let's say, and you have a letterhead, stationery, an envelope, and a business card. Well, that'd be a nice candidate to use Artboard for those three pieces. And then when you go to print it out, what I saw on the internet, if you do file export as I believe is what they use. Let me,
What?
I think it,
How do you know what you want to print?
Oh, export add.
yeah, let me see. Say it again.
Export add.
Okay, let me cancel this. So let me see if I get another one going. Oh, that's the reason why it's not showing. Okay, so anyway, we got these three. This is my actual canvas, and I got two artboards, and you can see they label up at the top here. Well, if I do file export, okay. Export as, I believe. Watch this. Hold on, let me see. Cancel, I think. Okay, so what happened to, okay, I made a mistake. Okay, let me try that again. Now I should get all of them. There we go. So now, you see I got the two artboards. If I hold on the shift key, I believe, and click on them, I get a preview of the two artboards, and I'm gonna export it, and I can export them individually from this export as panel. Again, this is a new feature.
Which one you really want to export.
Huh?
Or
You could just select whatever one. I just happen,
figure out.
this allows you to select either one or all of them, and then export them all at once. And I guess when you export, it gives you an option to name it, however you want to. Again, I've never used this. I saw this last night, and I just saw how you did. I thought that was kind of neat. So anyway, this is a new feature to Photoshop. So,
You mean if you're on this page right now and you had a third artboard, then you can shift and select two of them out of the
yeah, you could do a
three?
contiguous selection, or all of them, or just in one individual artboard.
So you could have exported artboard 1 and artboard 3, but not 2.
Yeah, you can. So cancel out of that. So that's a new feature that's available in Photoshop. Okay, so we want to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and talk about the 5 new features. Those are the minor stuff. A lot of them are useful, great welcomes for me. A lot of these, they're not going to, make a big difference in my life, but at least they get rid of a lot of man, I wish they would correct that problem type thing. I'm so used to doing the multiple undo, it's not going to bother me that much. But when I'm teaching it for a beginner, most people know to do Control Z to do multiple levels undo. Lock screen is not going to. I'm not going to lose no sleep over the lock workspace. The text tool, the feature, the way it behaves, I like that. Being able to add the dummy text, being able to double click to edit, being able to click outside to commit. Again, it's not a whole lot of stuff, but it's a big those little nanoseconds, as you mentioned, right, they add up in time, you know?
Which is how much time am I going to lose in using transform tool?
Yeah, yeah. Every time you gotta click on something to transform it now,
Yeah.
and then now having to use a shift key. I think that's nice. You got to get used to it. What's the other ones?
Oh, did you do the first one, which was the new home screen?
Yeah. Were you not here when
Oh,
we did
here. I didn't know. Couldn't tell which one was the.
that? Okay, it's
home
right
button.
here. If you click right here, it goes from
That's a home button.
yeah the home button, and then well this is the new.
The new home screen is what?
Well, you could click right if you did this. I don't know how new it is, but you get this panel right here, and you got all of these different options for photo, print, art and illustration, web, mobile, video. Uh, Slightly new. And then you can download some free stuff, or you can pay Adobe for some of that content. And then you can go back to your page. So let's take and then Artboard again is a new feature. Again, I don't know often I would use it, but for some folks out there, it may be a great welcome to the application. Color wheel again, not a big deal for me. So again, these are some minor updates. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. We're gonna look at the top 5 new features in Photoshop. 5 new features in Photoshop. So these are more appealing to me. Those 10, they were all right, and I could manage without them. I think they're good for new folks, but for me, for experts, we're not gonna lose no sleep over it. We're not gonna miss a meal, even though we need to. Over those top 5 minor features. Let's look at the 5 major features that's new, and I kind of put them in the order of what I've been hearing as being the most, like the new content field. It's the number 1 feature. Okay, and we'll look at that one. But anyway, let's look at this first one, distribute spacing option, if you will. So in the past, what you had to do was to, and I don't have anything in the past, you could distribute things, but you couldn't do it. They didn't have the spacing option feature. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Now you can equally distribute objects on your stage equally with this new feature. So let me show you that. And I'm going to just delete these just for clarity's sake. Am I deleting it? Okay. And use my move tool because I was making all kind of copies.
You can go back to the history panel.
Yeah, I could. I'll tell you, let me do this. I'm going to just do this file. Close. Let me see if I want to select something else. Anyway, no, I think this is the same one. Anyway, so let's look at this other option, if you will. I'm going to just use the rectangular tool. So I'm going to just draw out a couple objects using my shape tool. That's 1, 2. Let's do 3. Let's do maybe a small one there, right? Like so. So I got these 4 objects that we've added to. And then, by the way, when you use the shape tool, it automatically creates new layers. Some things automatically create new layers, and it's important for beginners to know. The text tool will automatically create new layers. The shape tool will automatically create new layers. Certain masks will automatically create new layers. The adjustment layer, certain things will automatically create new layers for you. When you cut and paste things into Photoshop, it will automatically create new layers for you. So anyway, each one of these got placed on a separate layer, as you see in the layers panel. Well, again, like in most programs, you shift-click to select multiple objects, in this case, multiple layers. And I have each of those layers selected. Now, what I want to do is equally distribute the spacing, if you will, between these layers.
It looks like only one is selected now.
Well, they all selected because I can see they highlighted in the panel here. Let me just deselect it so you can see it better. So if I shift click, you see that they all selected. Now, it may not be obvious on a stage or on a canvas, but they are all four selected. Okay. Now, let's see what I want to do is,
So when you select all four from the panel, it selects the object too?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's going to select it on a stage. So the new features right here is distribute space equal. Now you always had these available. Now this is, if you use Illustrator, you've seen this, and many other programs, you can space things equally and align them up horizontally to the edge and all that fun stuff. So what's new is the ability to space equally horizontally and vertically, like right here, and whether or not you want to align it via the selection or via the canvas. And again, this is available in Flash and many other programs. So if I click this option right here, watch what happens. Pay attention to spacing on these horizontally right here. Okay, did that work? Why is that not working?
I was thinking you still need to select the object within the layer.
No, they are selected. Look. Did it work? There we go. You saw a shift? I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's going to evenly space those objects. Again, not something I do quite often, but when you need this particular feature, you know, it's good to be able to have it. And you could do the same thing if I had stacked them on top of each other and did that one. I would use this option, and it would space it. It'll space it vertically, evenly.
You make them all even on the top too.
Yeah, you could. I guess if you got them all selected and you did something like that, right? So again, you just click on whatever you need to align them to the top, to the bottom, to the center. Again, this is true of most programs, Illustrator, Photoshop, you name it. So anyway, that's a new feature. Not that often that I use it, but have you ever used this feature? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they have to be on a. No, they could be on the same layer, because if it's on the same layer, you couldn't move them because they'd be all etched into that same layer, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, the way you'd have to do it was you'd have to hit Command A, so to select your entire canvas, and then you can go ahead and then use those buttons and paste them the canvas itself.
Okay. But in this case, you have each one of them on separate layers, so they move independent of one another. And you could do Control J and just kind of cut them to separate layers, copy them via layer, or cut them via layer to different layers, and then move them. But
That's Control J?
Control J, typically, if you do Control J on a layer, it's going to duplicate that layer or duplicate that selection. When nothing is selected, the whole canvas gets affected. That's the short mechanism. So the whole layer got affected. But if I just did, let's just do right here. So if I just make that selection, and if I do Control J, and I'm using my Alt key, by the way. Using the Alt key will alternate the functionality of things. It turns off all of the layers except the one I clicked on. And so you can see it just what was selected got affected by what I did. So when I did Control J, because I only had that selection, that was the only thing that got affected. Turn those on, and we'll just delete this. Okay, so that is the distribute equally feature that they've added to Photoshop. And again, I'm going to select these and just drag them to the trash. Or as one lady said one time when I was teaching Photoshop, this is a cupcake, y'all. Mm-hmm. So I'll drag it to that cupcake. It was so funny. It's amazing when you talk to new users of Photoshop. And she obviously had kids, right? Because she said, well, and I said, click on this magnifying glass. She said, oh, that lollipop, you know. I said, I'm going down here really quick. And then that little speaker icon, it looked like a space shuttle. I mean, a lunar module, you know.
Oh, the
Yeah.
thrust.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess some interesting story. But what's new, and this might be irritating to you when you hover over the that probably.
Turn it off.
Yeah, I know. I know that's probably irritating the heck out of you, all right?
You know, I've raised up Photoshop so many times the last couple months, different programs.
Okay.
I've gotten used to it.
Okay, so that's one new feature. Now, the blend mode, how many of you work with the blend mode? And I know you guys. Well, in the past, in the old days, 3 weeks ago, you used to have to select a blend mode, see what it does. Select another blend mode, see what it does, right? Kind of trial and error type setup. Now you can literally hover over the options in the blend mode drop down box and see the effects. So let's look at an example of that.
Great time saver.
So let me, yeah, exactly. So if I did file open, so let's see which one of these I cropped. I think this one is cropped. If I open that image, and I'm going to do Control A. Control A does what? Select all. Now, most programs, Control A. Use my Move tool. Anytime you want to move something, use Move tool. And I'm going to drag it to the tab. I know you guys can do this. And then I can drag it in. Okay, you guys see what I did? Now, I am going to use the blend. Actually, before I do that, I want to kind of see if I can mask out this area right here. Okay, so I'm going to use this new feature. Remember I told you about select subject? So let me try that, if you will. So well, I really enjoyed when they first came out with the quick select tool. That was like one of my favorite tools when they first came out with it. Well, when you use that tool, you could just kind of click in here and drag and get a subject selected. Well, there's a new option that's available, that was available in previous version of, I think this is 2018 or whatever. But I've never really used it. But if you click on it, it goes and examine the image and makes the selection for you. Life is good. Okay, and I love that feature. That works with people, images, objects, you know. I don't know how it does it, but I guess it looks at the background, particularly if you got a good clean background like we do have here. It knows to pick up the subject. Well, obviously I want to invert that selection, so we can do select invert or use the keyboard command.
One subject.
Select subject. That's this option right here. Select subject. But obviously I need to invert that selection. Shift Control I for you geeks. And then I'm gonna hit the delete key. And that just kind of deletes most of the, and I didn't do a perfect job, but that's okay for what I'm trying to do. And then I'm gonna use my move tool again. Anytime you want to move something, use the move tool. And I'm gonna just kind of move it right here because I want to make it look like she's coming out of the water right there. Like that. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna use the blend mode. So now the blend mode has to have a layer below it to blend to. There's a lighting effect. Basically, that's what you think about the blend mode. It's basically simulated lighting for you geeks out there. And so you have to have a layer to blend with. I was just thinking it'd take two to merge, I guess. So you need two things to use the blend mode. So anyway, I got this object or this layer selected. Now I am going to use the blend mode. But again, in the old days, you had to kind of do these individually, right? Well, I can literally, all I'm doing is just moving my mouse, or you can use the arrow keys as well. Oh, that's kind of cool. And can you guys see that? To get the different options going. And that's soft light, that's overlay. Let's see, which one do I like? I don't know, that'll work. Anyone that tickles your fancy, right? The bottom line is you can use the arrow keys or you can just hover over these options and it will, what term you use, dynamic preview. without much fuss. Title my new book. Okay, so anyway, that's the new feature I like. Again, easy to use, but can come in handy. Can save you a lot of time. And I'm a stickler. Anybody know me? Anything that saves me time, I'm on it like chicken on a June bug. For you country folks out there. You ever see the little green, those little brown June bugs, right? No, it's chicken on June bug. You from another part of the country?
In Corneliusville,
How does a chicken fit on a June bug?
No, chicken on a June bug. He eating a June
Oh,
bug.
okay. Oh, it's on it.
Chicken on a June bug. Eating no June bugs. Anyway, so let's look at another one. Again, this is for you illustrators out there, which I'm not. And that is a new symmetric tool. Okay, so anytime you use the brush tool, because there's different types of brush tools, right? You got this new feature that allows you to paint in symmetry. You heard the term symmetric, right? So let's see how that works. This is a really cool tool, I thought. And so if you use a brush tool, and I'm going to decrease the size of the stroke. By the way, the angle brackets to, not angle brackets, the square brackets to increase or decrease the size of the brush stroke. But up at the top here, you have all of these different options. I particularly like this one. This is like my favorite. Now you can experiment with the other ones, but this is my favorite. Mandela, something like that. Anyway, I'm going to bump this thing up to 10 and show you what happens. And you can move this thing around, you can scale it or whatever you need to do to it.
Where do you get that mandala symmetry tool?
Right up here.
In the,
When you're on a tool, you go to your tools, right?
yes.
And then you go up here, see a little butterfly, and you can select any one of these.
Okay.
And I'm selecting this last one. Now, I got my color that I want to paint, which is blue in this case. And watch, I'm gonna start. Watch, I'm not much of an artist, so bear with me. But watch this. I'm gonna just draw, and I'm just kind of just. Isn't that a masterpiece right there? I just kind of wiggle. That's all I did, right? And I created that particular masterpiece. And then I could change the color. Let's say, get another color, and then do something. Maybe come over here. Change color. Anyway, you could play with that and just have fun with it. Okay. So if you need to do something with symmetry, and then that's just one of the many options that you have to choose from. If you need to, and I wrote to the layer. Typically, when you do that, you want to write it on a separate layer. So I didn't do that. But I always have a copy of a backup. So always. My backup of backups. That's my Chopinism. Back it up before you jack it up. So I'm gonna just delete that. So you could use that particular tool. Now, when you finish with it, you need to just make sure you turn it off. Otherwise, you're gonna be painting always in symmetry.
Is that on its own layer?
I guess it just shows up anytime you use it. You just need to turn it off. Otherwise, it's gonna still be there.
When you're drawing it, does it go on the current layer?
I think so. Well, whatever layer you're on, let me create a couple layers. Let's do that. So whatever layer you're on is the layer that's going to draw to, which makes sense, right?
How did you turn it off?
Hold on a sec. That's cool. You just click here and do symmetry off.
Okay.
And that's going to turn it off. So that's a new tool. Again, you can kind of play around that for you artists out there. I don't do much drawing. I could draw a stick figure about close as I can get to drawing stuff.
Could you make like one, like 2 halves instead of 6?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you saw all those options. Yeah, you can. Okay, I just got the one that had all of the fancy stuff. Okay, another tool, another tool that, now this is the number 2 feature new to Photoshop, and that is the use of the frame tool. Now, I'm going to use InDesign. Okay, if you use InDesign, I'm sure you've seen frames in InDesign, for crying out loud, right? So before this, you had to use a mask in order to do this step. Now you can literally create frames and literally drag and drop images into the frame, and it would automatically set the focus. It goes through some type of algorithm and knows how to center it within that frame. Really cool. And that's also true of InDesign.
Now, what, is it on a separate layer?
Let me just show it to you. Okay, so now it's a new tool. It's right here, just like in InDesign. See a little tool right here, and it gives you 2 options. You got the rectangular or the circular one, right? So let's just do the rectangular tool, and I'm gonna click and drag right here like so, and I'm gonna draw out 2 of them actually, like so. So I got these 2 frames that create new layers. Okay, because remember, certain things create layers automatically. It's important to know. And I am going to do let's see. Let's see. I am going to drag some images in here.
Did you do Alt File to go here, or while you have the?
I just opened up the File Explorer, and then what I want to do is just drag and drop some images in here. I'm gonna drag this image. Watch. I'm gonna just drag it, and watch. I'm gonna drop it. Bam. See it right in there. Alt Tab. Find me another image. Let me move this over so you can see it better. I'm gonna drag this image, drag, and drop. Okay, that's how easy that is. Okay, and again, you can make this circular. If you had a circular one, you could do that as well. And let me just tab and then drag, drop. Okay, simple as that. Now, how do you used to do this in the past?
Did it crop it?
Well, actually, let me just tell you what it's doing. Let's just turn these off so we can just focus on one, and I'm gonna use my move tool because I want to move something.
Like if you did that picture, but with a circle, would it? Well, actually, something that you would cut, like the city one. If you did a circle, would it cut out some of the city?
It will. Well, let's just see. The circle, the city. Let me see what I did with the city. So let's do one with the circle with the city. Okay, let's see right here. Picture is there. And
like a smaller circle that would cut out some of the city.
Let's try. So you want to make it smaller?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's make it do that. See what it does. And let's take this and drag and drop it in there. And by the way, once you drop it in there, you're not stuck with that particular image. You can literally go back and just drag and drop another image, and it's going to automatically replace it, which is a really neat feature.
So it automatically resizes the image. I'm thinking InDesign now, so because there you could actually show different parts of it if the image is bigger than.
Yeah, you can, and you can do that here too, and that's what I was about to illustrate next, and that is that. Once it's in there, this is actually what they call, for you geeks out there, non-destructive. Everything you do in Photoshop, you want to be what? Non-destructive, right? Y'all know that. So what you have here is just like you have what we call a layer mask. You guys familiar with layer mask, vector mask, gradient mask, quick mask, right? Adjustment mask, filter mask, to name a few. And so you have the object and you have the mask for the object. So here, if I click on the image, right, and do Control T. Make sure you click on it, and then I'm gonna do Control T, free transform, right? I can actually scale this thing up or down or whatever. You guys see that? By the way, it does create a smart object, and that's the reason why you see this little icon right here. This is like a smart object. And so you can move that image inside of that mask. You guys tracking me? And then I'm gonna just click to commit. Or I can select the mask itself and scale it. So I can select it, Control Z, and scale the mask. So now you notice I'm scaling the mask. The image is still back there, it's not moving. Right? So you can scale the object or the mask, or if you don't have either one of them selected, you're moving the mask and the image. Right? And that's true of most things you do. So for example, if I wanted to do this, and I had this earlier example, let's do this. Let me show you what you used to have to do in the past. Again, we'll drag and drop and pull it in, right? So if you had an image like that, and you wanted to mask something, what you would have to do is select what you want to affect, right? Make a selection, right? And then make a mask. You guys know how to do a layer mask. Click on that, and then that becomes a layer mask. Well, that's the same concept as the frame, right? Again, if I use my move tool because I want to move it, it's going to move the mask and the image together. If I want to move the image, I click on the image, unlock it, make sure, and this is different from the frame. You got to unlock it. Now I can move the image inside of the mask. It's moving inside of that square area, right? Or I click on the mask. Mask is always black and white. Remember, black conceals, white reveals, right? You remember that? So the black concealing the image is there, it's just conceal, white reveals portion of the image. Now I'm moving not the image, I'm moving the mask. You guys see that? So again, the same concept, and again, I'm like you, I'm used to this, right? So it's not a big deal for me to do this. But for a beginner, you know, they're not gonna know. They're not gonna know what a mask is. They're layer mask, vector mask, quick mask. They go crazy. They just thinking about it, right? But for a beginner, and I'm always wanting to help the beginner folks, right? This would be a nice tool for them to have. I think I can do a lot more with layer mask because I know I can kind of manipulate things. I can create my own shape and stuff. I'm not limited to 2 shapes, all that fun stuff. So, but for beginners, I think this can come in handy. You can apply whatever effect to drop shadows, bevel, what have you, to that mask and do whatever you want with it. So anyway, that's the new tool that is available to you as well. Okay, you're not limited though to images. You could do that with text. So let's what I want to do just for sanity's sake is I'm going to delete all of this just so I can have a clean canvas to work with for this image. Let's use my text tool again and Hawaii. Okay, and I'm going to bump that up, double click on it because I know I can, and bump it up because I want to be really big. All right, let's like that. Now, what I found out last night, actually I think it was today, that you can convert, you know how you can rasterize stuff, right? Well, you can convert this to a frame. So typically you rasterize an image, you can kind of do stuff with it, right? Well, you can also convert to a frame. So now convert that to a frame, give it a name. I guess it was smart enough, smarter than the average, better name it Hawaii, that was cool. And now that's the frame. And then I could go back to my images and pop in maybe, where's that? You want to put a butterfly in there? Maybe butterfly. Didn't fit everywhere. Well, let me do something else. Let me drop something else in there. Yeah. Move this up my way. This is what I wanted to drop in there. There we go. And now it's obviously, you can see it's not covering everything, right? So I need to go in and do a Control T, right? And scale that so it can cover all of the letters, obviously. just like that. And this is like the first thing you learn when you learn Photoshop. You always get this fancy character. And so when I click that now, I got this nice little thing. And if I, for you geeks out there, you commit that. You want to add a drop shadow.
Where's the commit button?
I just click outside. There's no commit button anymore.
Oh.
I add a drop shadow right here. What layer am I on? Let me try that again. How much time do I have?
About 30 minutes.
Okay. Okay, it's not letting me do that for some reason. Anyway, I don't worry about that. I was trying to add a drop shadow. So anyway, you could do that. Again, the same thing like clipping mask. That's another type of mask. And I have a training on the website of the 8 different types of masks. The thing about a mask is, and the title of the series, Unmasking the Mystery of the Mask. The mask can only show, hide, or protect, right? That's only any kind of mask. I don't care what kind of mask in the world. A football, a face mask, masking tape, any kind of mask, gas mask, you name it. A mask can only show, hide, and protect what's underneath it. That's regardless of the type, right? And so once you know that, all of these 8 different types of masks, they all do the same thing. They just do it differently, right? They will show, hide something, right? What's underneath it. Some show, hide images. Some show, hide vectors. Others show, hide effects of things. But they all show, hide, or protect what's underneath it. And so when you know that, man, you can rock and roll with 8 different types of masks without getting confused about what they are and when to use one over the other. Because most people, they don't know when to use one mask over the other type, right? But when you know that feature, you can go a lot further in figuring out how all the stuff works and what it's showing, hiding, and protecting. Okay, so the frame is a nice feature that was added to Photoshop. So you could do it with images, and if you got a text tool, you can convert that text. And then you got to remember that you got to convert the text to a frame, and then just drag and drop an image and scale it within there. So again, that's good for beginner. For us old hat experts out there, we might still use the old school clipping mask and all that fun stuff. Because with clipping masks, you can have multiple. The advantage of clipping masks is you can use multiple images within a single mask. That's the advantage of a clipping mask over a layer mask or vector mask. Okay, so where are we? Down to number 1. The top number 1 feature to the new version of Photoshop is this new, and it's been around, but they've improved it. It's called the Content Aware Fill. And I remember when this first thing came out, you remember?
Oh yeah.
It worked. I mean, it was like, man, one of the really, I was like, man, this is cool. Okay, so they got this Content Aware Fill dedicated workspace, if you will. Not just just click and do it, but literally you could go in and manipulate things to make it look better. Okay, and we'll see that in a minute. So let's do that. And so what I want to do is open up a new file in Photoshop. So I'm going to do File Open. Actually, you know what? Well, look at that. I forgot I could do that. Okay, forgot that little feature. Hit that little home button. Okay, I forgot that. Okay, so I'm going to open that file. Look at that. Bam. I'm right down the spot with that. Do fit the screen so you guys can see that better. Okay, so now, first of all, I want to make a selection, right? Because only what's selected gets affected. So I want to select this object, this horse in this image. And so let me think how I'm going to do that. Well, I could probably use my quick select tool, right? Now, I could click and drag inside of that. That's old school. New school is just to click on the select subject. I love that feature. I wish I had known that a while back. it goes and analyzes the image. Wait for it. Wait for it. Bam. It created, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's the marching ants. You know, y'all remember my chauvinism on there? When you see the digital ants marching in line, you know you got a selection defined. Y'all remember that one? You see the digital ants marching in line, you know you got a selection defined. Okay, so you got a selection. One click, I love it. Okay, you can see I get excited real fast. Okay, now what I want to do is remove that horse from the scene. Really cool. Now, in the old days, 19 days ago or so, what you had to do was go edit, and for you geeks out there, Shift F5, select fill. And then you had this option, you could fill it with any color, but then you had this new option called Content Aware Fill, right? So you got that option selected, click OK. And now, this is the ghost sauce. I don't know if you can see the little ghost. I thought that was really cool because you can kind of see the invisible. Ooh, that's trying to scare you guys
With
out
the
there.
shadow.
Yeah, ooh, and then you see the. So I fumbled across. I said that's kind of cool. You know, I didn't mean to do that, but I thought it was cool nonetheless. Right? So you got the little ghost. Can y'all see him? You kind of faint there. See the shadow right there? Kind of going up there. You see the ears up at the top. The ghost horse there. Well, I actually didn't want to do that, but I inadvertently did that. Typically, when you make a selection, when you're doing content aware fill, you can't just make a selection of the object. You got to go outside of the object, okay, in order to do it correctly. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to undo that. But this time, with my selection still selected, I want to go in and expand that selection. And so I'm going to go up here, go select, modify, and then expand. Now you can do this in the new feature. And I'm going to expand it 3 pixels. So it's going to go outside of itself. And you can see it's outside of the image now a little bit. If you can see that it's outside of the subject matter, the horse there, if you will. Now if I do it, again, I'm going to do edit, do that, click OK, and it did Control D, did a bit, and I still got the shadow there, right? That's because I didn't add the shadow to my selection, right? Because I only was selected. Just now, this is really spooky, right? Because maybe that's a hole in the ground. Okay, so let me undo that. Yeah, I guess I had too much fun with this. So I need to add to my selection, right? And so I can use my lasso tool, or any tool for that matter. And you hold on my shift key, right? The shift add to a selection. And I'm going to just kind of click here like that. And then I need to add down here too, right? So I'm just dragging roughly. And then I'm going to just kind of subtract this area out.
The mane of the horse too.
Yeah.
And the tail.
Do a little bit of there.
Oh, and the horse tail, or horse shadow tail. And the horse shadow mane.
Okay. So let me do this. Cleaning it up here.
And the horse shadow tail.
Oh, right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. It should be good enough. I think I got most of it. Okay, so I got the selection on. So now I'm going to do it again and see what happens. Now, depending upon the image, what I've discovered is that this old technique still works fairly well. Okay, when you do edit the content aware field here, if you do that, give it some time, and I've missed a few spots. Control D. But it did a fairly good job. Now, it kind of messed up back here, notice, right? Notice what it did with my fence, right? Not good. I'm going to show you how to correct that problem in a minute. And the reason for it did that is because the old way of doing it, it examines the whole image and try to figure out what you're trying to do. Well, you can limit what you want to do with the image with this new technique. So I'm going to do Control Z a couple times because now I can, right? Control Z to do multiple levels of undo. But this time I'm going to go in and do the edit. Not this one, but this one. Content aware field, right? Click on that one. Now I get this big dialog box. Let me just preview this. See right here? I got this big thing, and then I got this big preview of what it's going to do. Now, what you can do is go in and do certain things. Anything, notice right here, it didn't do a good job right here, right? And the reason for that is it is examining all of this area right now. So I can remove this area right here because everything right now is being sampled. If I don't want to include this in the selection, I can just erase it out, and it's going to update this selection based upon what I do. Now, I'm thinking what I was trying to do, because there's a new feature in here, let me show you, called mirror. So you can mirror one image, one side of the image with the other one, because what I want to do is to extend this fence along the side here, right? So I'm thinking maybe if I got rid of, and this is my thinking, if I got rid of half of my sampling area, and I can mirror it over to the other side so I can get the fence in the background. You guys see where I'm trying to go with this? I want to get some fencing going right here. It may not be perfect, but I want to get the fencing going that way. There's some really good tutorial on the web and YouTube. If you type in content aware field, you see some really excellent examples of how to utilize all of these features. For the sake of time, I'm just doing a crude example to illustrate this concept. So watch what happens when I click on this. It's kind of analyzing it. And you know it's analyzing it because when it's spinning right there, and notice it painted me some fence along the back. Okay? Even though there was a horse back there at first, right? It looked at it and literally mirrored that image to the other side. Okay? And then you could go in and play around with all of these. And again, I'm not going to do it because I'm not that versed with this particular tool.
Oh, you mean wherever the fence would have been,
What I did was I told it not to examine this area, right? Let me close this up. This is the area that Photoshop is saying, hey, you sample these pixels and do something with it, right? So it knows to take these pixels and just paint them over here, right? Well, I want to paint these pixels over there as well, but I also want to kind of mirror that image over there, right? And so that mirror option right here allows you to do that. And you can do some things with scaling to compensate for some things that may go wrong within your image. And color adjustments and rotation. Again, there's some good videos on the web. The bottom line is this content aware field is a dedicated tool that you can use to make an image look the way you want based upon whatever area of the image you want to sample or not sample. So that's the latest and greatest version of content aware field with a dedicated window panel. And you can, by the way, another thing you can do too is once you do that, you can save your changes to a new layer. So if I select new layer and move this over, click OK, wait for it. Okay, there we go. Let me do Control D to deselect that. And I kind of missed some things here when I was doing it because out of haste. Anyway, before, after. And I just did a bad selection right here. That's because I didn't do a really good selection there.
Is there a mirroring of, because you know how there's on the right hand side there's a stick that's leaned over?
Yeah, right here, yeah. And you see it here and here?
Yeah, I expected it to be a mirror of that stick, not a same
Yeah, again, I don't know all the algorithm that goes on behind it. Again, you could probably, there's that scaling and rotation. There's a lot of options. Go on the website. I don't have time to do it tonight, but there's a lot of options that allows you to adjust all of what you see in the background. So that's really cool.
One thing here, it looks, and I'm seeing on my laptop here, not as easy to see if everything. It looks like some of the areas, like the grass is a little blurry, and that may just be a limitation.
Again, you can use that color adjustment options. Do we have an internet connection?
Yes.
Okay, so let me do this real quick, since we do have a few more minutes, because I go to my friend. Y'all know who my friend is?
Yeah.
Google. Google. I Google. I think I Google every day. Okay. No, not Google. Excuse me. It's Google. I do Google, but YouTube. YouTube is another one that I use quite often.
Belongs to Google.
Which belongs to Google. Yeah. So go figure. Google and Amazon are taking over the world. Y'all knew that. You think so? Okay, you can see I had it right here already. Okay, so let me show you this one. This guy is really good. This guy is really good. I listen. It's a half an hour long, but he's funny too. He's really good. But let me just show you this one right here. This is 2 minutes, so this is easy. Can y'all hear that? Hold on a sec. Let me see. Oh, it just allows us. I can get it. It's coming up from up there. Y'all hear it?
Yeah.
You saw that? I like this one here. The area right here. And this is going to rotate it. See that? That's cool. That's slicker than slime. How many of you know slime is slick? It may not be perfect, but man, that's good enough for government work because I work for the state to be able to do that. So that's a quick one, and let me got another quick one here. Out of that. What was the other one I saw that was really quick? This. I think it's this one. I didn't miss it. That's not the one. Let me do this because he's my guy. I'm trying to get to it. Wait. Oh, here we go. There we go. I like that. And he's kind of funny like me, so that helps. Control J, remember that? So he's just refining the selection. Like what I was doing with the horse, I was adding and subtracting. That's the old way. So ignore the blur. So that's the problem. You can adjust that. You can tell it sample that blur area. He's funny.
About 5 minutes.
Yeah, we're through. All right, that's it for me and for YouTube. But content aware fill is really good. I think it's not my favorite feature. I just got to experiment with it more. And then the frame tool, I think is a good tool. The other stuff is not. You know, I mean, I could live without it. I won't lose no sleep if I didn't have it. But the frame tool and the